when I say the medicine path, in the medicine path, I think it's just the path of being like like yoga can be part of a medicine path, doing
Mm-hmm.
Reiki, being a meditator,
Mm-hmm.
is yeah, Akashic readings, all is part of the medicine path. So I think like I cannot call myself just like, yes, like I'm like red path for sure. Like I love the school of the red path, the philosophy, and how it's like these teachings for life. But like I'm into yoga also and to
Mm-hmm.
tarot. So I think it's just like bringing all together that
Yeah.
bring. It's been like, yeah, when I was in Germany, I was being called a shaman, and for me, it was kind of embarrassing because
Mm,
I think is part of the industry that we are seeing developing, but
totally.
is came from Mongolia, that word,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Siberia, I think. But it's more like being a healer or like holistic therapist is now what I'm starting to use, because it's
Yeah.
used like I'm hanging different things, I'm bringing here with me. And for sure, I'm part of the red path too, but also I do yoga and I do
Mm-hmm.
other things.
So I'm very excited about this second episode of the Art of Healing podcast, because I'm very lucky to be joined by this guest. And the topic I really have been wanting to kind of bring onto the show is the topic of ritual and ceremony on the medicine path specifically. And my guest today knows all about the medicine path. She's introduced me to the medicine path and to some of the most really life changing rituals and ceremonies I've encountered within my healing journey. So I'm honored to have you on this episode today, Mars. Thank you for joining. I should say that I should introduce you as Marcia Melissa Sarabia, but uh, of
It's
course I
a
call
long
you
name.
Mars. But thank you for coming.
Well, I feel very honored, like in the way you introduce me, because I feel I don't know everything, but
You know,
I know some a bit, but we're still learning, and it's something that I had been thinking the last days about. We are still learning. Always, I feel
mm-hmm,
I don't know
mm-hmm.
anything. Just I'm trying.
Yeah, but
Uh,
I think this is why I follow you, and I really trust the spaces that you take me into, because you allow your humanity to be seen with everything that you do. And I think that that's such a crucial element in spirituality, especially like now that spirituality is really becoming like a bit of a industry, and there's a lot of leaders and teachers in this industry who don't allow their humanity to be seen. It's very special and rare to encounter someone like you, and who's really like humble and on this path, a very disciplined path, and a path that a lot of people are not familiar with. but
yeah.
you but you're still like, well, no, I'm still learning, I only know a little bit, I don't know a lot. And um I really respect that about you.
Yeah, I think for this reason we connect with each other, because we want to keep it real, like grounded with the feet on the earth, and yes, and the mind to the
Mm-hmm.
sky, no? Um, I think this that you're talking is really very important, because we are seeing that for sure the spirituality had been opening way more to the world in different presentations and images. So it's becoming a very industrial thing also, the spiritual business, that I'm not free of seeing of this, because now it's becoming my life, and I'm starting also. I didn't choose this path, and it's just the life I think had been really pushing me used to be more into this. And now for sure, like I'm holding a space and like bringing some ceremony circles, bringing people together, and doing chart readings and tarot, like therapeutic tarot readings. But I was not expecting I was doing this full time. Was
Mm-hmm.
in some moment was just part of my personal path. Like I used to
Mm-hmm.
be living more like giving yoga classes and dance and then traveling. Well, I had been
Yeah.
traveling for a while, but I didn't expect to be full time on this. And I
Mm.
think that's something that happened with us. It's not like the we choose like a
Mm-hmm.
profession that I say, okay, I want to be a doctor or I want to be a chef. So I'm going to the school and get my bachelor or my in Mexico we say license for do this, you know. Now exists. Now we have like masters of
Become a
masters of
shaman.
yoga, became
Become
a
a tantric.
shaman in this weekend or this week workshop in Bali. And it's like
Become a tantric priestess and join
in
the join
into
the mystery school and the initiation program. And not
exactly.
that I'm discrediting any of that, but I think I really like what you're saying is that this path kind of chooses you and not the other way around. And I think I've really seen that firsthand with you because when we first met, as you said, you were doing yoga, you were running some circles and doing some ceremonies. That's how we also really connected. And but what's interesting is as the years have gone by, um, and especially after the last year, I've seen you in this role. I don't know what you would call it, but I guess especially after joining you in Mexico for the summer solstice, where you invited me to do the moon dance, La Danza de la Luna in Mexico, which is a ancient ceremony and gathering of women. And I think when I saw you in this ceremony is when I really realized, like, oh shit, like I see you, I see what you're here to do. And yeah, it took over, right? Spirit took over, and now you're living it and trying to make it happen, and also being very in touch with your groundedness and your humanity. But maybe I can get you to explain to begin with, like, what is the medicine path and how did you find yourself drawn to it?
Yeah, I wanna like something about you was talking about yes, it's not about discredit people, and some people
Mm-hmm.
is really also trying to share what they had been learning in their own way and since their own culture, their own cosmovision, right?
True.
So it's just very delicate the line this that I wanted to point that we live in this express culture and
Yeah.
yes, express food, express this. So only some people wanna become like a shaman or a healer, like in a express way.
Yeah.
So it's a long journey. Is sometimes people go maybe and experience like with some medicine plant or during a month, or they have this awakening and it's wonderful. But sometimes doesn't mean that you're ready for be like sharing in that way that medicine is like a whole journey.
Mm-hmm.
um, Personally I studied communication science. This was my career, and I was dancing always since I was 14. I didn't imagine myself into the medicine path. I went to Ecuador for exchange in 2008. I was 23, and I knew and I listened about ayahuasca in that time. I went to the Amazon, and then it's like, okay, somebody explained to me about the medicine, and I didn't took the medicine because was like a French shaman or something, and I
Mm-hmm.
felt like, okay, I want when I do this the first time be with yes a native, like somebody that grow into the tradition. Like in some ways I'm very progressive and open mind, and in other aspects I love tradition and what had been building with like the people had been bringing this, from the ancestors. So it's kind of be conservative in that way, but in being kind of not loyal, but trusting in when something had been built and still exists, is for some reason. And I think it's like that. So had been a whole journey where I experienced with plants. And then when I was in university, like some friends started to participate in temazcales, like the sweat lodge, in English. And I used to go, but I was like, just experimenting, going. And some of them, they got very committed. And the interesting thing that many of them were very social aware. They were really like were feministic, or like really trying to bring this social awareness to the people they are around, to society. So I think people that it was like a meeting with my friends, we in some way we were awake about how reality is and is working.
Mhm.
So we were trying some way to connect to some kind of spirituality that resonate with us.
Mhm.
Here in Mexico and in North America and in Latin America and South America, we call it Camino Rojo, like the red path.
The red path.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So the red path is the medicine path.
We can say medicine path in some way, but some people maybe can be in a medicine path and be part of the red path, right?
Okay.
Like the
Mhm.
red path is a path of the ancestors of the natives in the whole continent, from United States, Canada, Alaska, until the Patagonia, like from north
Mhm.
to south. So is they call it like that because it's like the kind of like the red path, the color of the skin. They were the reds, no, and
Mhm.
that time
Mhm.
is how they were called for the colonizers.
Mhm.
So in Mexico also have another name that is the path of the Anahuac, that came also
Mhm.
from the north until south. So it's a lot of different names for refer to that. Like in the north, like in Mexico is Temezcal, is the sweat lodge. In North America, they have Tipi, Inipi, and for sure many another names. But I think over the centuries after colonization, kind of the elders, the abuelas, grandfathers, grandmothers, had been like this culture of the natives exists and is very alive, didn't really die. So
Mhm.
it's not something that you were supposed to learn in school because it's not what they wanted to teach in the school. When I mean they, I'm gonna sounds very conspiracy person, maybe, I don't know. When I say they, I mean people that is in power, right?
Mhm.
Political, social, economical power. So
Yeah.
is we just receive and we are taught what the people in the power want to teach us. So for sure, like natives were not in the power,
Mm.
but exists and is still alive. The culture, schools, the school like of the native school in Mexico is called Calpuli in Nahuatl, the language. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, but with the arriving of the church, everything related to these kind of things, like with this relation to the earth, the elements, the essence, the energies, like the Europeans call it God and Goddess. The natives, they didn't call it gods and goddess, they call it like forces of nature, and they have
Mhm.
another names, it's another relation. So it was like, oh, that is witchcraft, oh, this is from the
Mhm.
evil, this is evil,
Mhm.
this. So was kind of, it is kind of a contra culture in some way that had been resisting and is still alive. So I didn't know about all this path because my parents, like, they use what they learn in school, and they are Mexicans, and they didn't talk about this connection with the ancestors in that way. It's a little bit lost for many, but it's still alive. So it was kind of connecting with some elders and people that had been bringing up all this knowledge that the ancestors have about the relation with the air and nature, and how we can really like live in harmony with the earth, and we can heal us, we can heal the earth, because they used to
Mhm.
live in harmony with the earth. But
Mhm.
this is more related to the Camino Rojo red path. And the
Okay.
red path have many like variants, like different kind of groups and dances and different ways. It's gonna change for sure, but
Mm.
many things is still very similar. Even for me, it was hard to say, oh, okay, yeah, like I'm in the beginning, I'm from the red path, no? Because I
Yeah.
have both. I have the native, I have the European too, you know? I'm
Mm.
native, but also I have this Hispanic, you know, like the Spain.
Mhm.
It's like also
Mhm.
I see when I interact with people from Spain how we are very similar for sure. So I cannot reject one, I cannot
Of
reject
course.
the another. I'm part of
Mhm.
the mix of the culture.
I guess it's beautiful though that like this is now becoming a bigger and bigger part of your life.
For sure, when I say the medicine path, in the medicine path, I think it's just the path of being like like yoga can be part of a medicine path, doing
Mhm.
Reiki, being a meditator,
Mhm.
is yeah, Akashic readings, all is part of the medicine path. So I
Mm.
think like I cannot call myself just like, yes, like I'm like red path for sure. Like I love the school of the red path, the philosophy, and how it's like these teachings for life. But like I'm into yoga also and to
Mhm.
tarot. So I think it's just like bringing all together that
Yeah.
bring, it's been like, yeah, when I was in Germany, I was being called a shaman, and for me it was kind of embarrassing because
Mm.
I think is this is part of the industry that we are seeing developing, but
Totally.
is came from Mongolia, that word,
Mhm. Mhm.
Siberia, I think. But it's more like being a healer, or like holistic therapist is now what I'm starting to use, because it's
Yeah.
used like I'm hanging different things, you know, I'm bringing here with me. And for sure, I'm part of the red path too, but also I do yoga and I do
Mhm.
other things. So what
Mhm.
I love about the red path is this relation with nature and the circles and the temazcales. Temazcal means a house of vapor,
House of vape. Yeah.
like a
Or like house of
steam,
fire, house of steam.
house of steam.
Mm.
Um, so we have also different, like in the red path, different kind of ceremonies. Temazcales, circles, women's circle, men's circle, mixed circles, wisdom circles, and sun dance is like moon dance, spirits dance, the star dance. It's different. It's
Mhm.
gonna change like a, and so you are gonna be maybe attracted to some specific dance. Like I have friends that they are sun dancers, and it's for men and women, and it's during the day, and it's 4 days where they are like mm, fasting,
Fasting,
the
food and water, right?
food and water, and is powerful.
Mhm.
But I don't feel in myself, on my soul, the call to do
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
dance in this moment of my life. Maybe when I'm 50, 60 years old, maybe I will want, but not in this moment. So it was a moon dance that really connect to me. uh, I started to listen about the moon dance the last year, and in the beginning of this year is when a sister, like a soul sister, told me, "Oh, we are bringing this to North Mexico, to Baja California, the moon dance." And it's like, okay, I feel, yes, the universe is telling me I must be there.
Mhm.
And it's not like Abuela, grandmother Lorena. We know it's not like, oh yeah, we are like dancing to the moon, just like, oh, like in this adoration to the moon. No, it's
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
what is the meaning of that? No, like the
Mm.
energy, like this moving, like the moon move the waters of the earth, move our waters, and the connection like we have like with the cycle of the moon, with our period, that our menstrual period, and what all represent in this connection with the femininity. And is when I felt the call to
Mhm.
participate in this very feminine dance. Um, is
And just
when,
just for reference, you mentioned Abuela Lorena. Maybe you can just quickly say something about how the what the role of female elders are in this tradition, because it's a huge part of it, where the abuelas are the ones that hold the ceremonies. So just so you can explain who Abuela Lorena is and what her role is within the moon dance ceremony.
Yeah, like the elders are the figures of authority and wisdom in the native cultures, right? Like in North America is same.
Mm.
Like we listen a lot about the chief, but we listen, it's like hundreds of different tribes also in the North America, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in some cultures where the women were also the ones in charge, and but because the patriarchal culture, we don't listen so much about that. But was really like that in some culture, women were the ones where they take decisions. So in Mexico, we have both, like the elders, or the abuelo and abuela, grandfather, grandmother. They are like the ones guiding us in this red path, right? So, for example, if you decide that you want to start a temazcal, you need that an abuelo or abuela
Ah,
be
interesting.
guiding you.
I didn't
You
know
cannot
that.
just do it by yourself, and exists like that a lot. Like many people maybe come
Mm,
to Mexico and they learn, they maybe go back to Europe or other places, and they are just doing their temazcal. But
they
it's
bring
a
it
whole
back.
it's a serious thing. You need to have a like a guidance from an elder,
Right. Of course. Of course.
because eventually we will be elders. But right now it's like we are still like kids
Learning.
just learning, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So this is in general in the maze in the red pot, you know. Like also he's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
in yoga. You have
Mm-hmm.
a guru, you know. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so Abuela Lorena, she she had been I don't know how many years in the red pot, like maybe more of 20 something. I don't know. I'm not sure, but like dancing with the Mundans, maybe more of 12 or something like that. They were trying to bring alive
Mm-hmm.
this feminine, very feminine and powerful dance. So
Mm-hmm.
Abuela Malinali and is kind of the one of our lineage, that you and I,
Mm-hmm.
because now you start the dance
Mm-hmm.
with Abuela Lorena, that she was like learning with Abuela Malinali.
Okay.
Is
Yeah.
where we can find a lot of songs of Abuela Malinali in Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
Rest in peace. Abuela Malinali just died the last year.
Mm.
Um, so it's Abuela Tonalmin, I think, and I don't remember the other name, but they were like these three abuelas that they start to make this grow. Even one of these abuelas grandmothers bring the moon dance to Europe, and it's already going on a moon dance also in Europe,
Yes.
like
There
I
was
think
like
in
one in
France,
Austria.
Austria and France. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
they are our sisters eventually.
Mm-hmm.
If we want to
Mm-hmm.
go and support one day, we can go, and it's going to happen, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But now we are like starting this circle here in Baja, but we have different circles, like in Sonora, in Quintana Roo is where is Tulum,
Mm-hmm.
no? Different
Mm-hmm.
places of Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
So Abuela Lorena, she is not that she decide. Abuela Malinali told her one day, like, oh, now it's your turn, and
To
give
become an
and
abuela, huh?
yeah, and give to her like something called petate. Petate is like a volcanic stone where you like
Mm-hmm.
ground the corn, right? So it's very symbolic, no? And give to her like what size do you want your petate? Because you came in airplane, right? You're like, "Ah, this small is okay. I can bring it back to my city." So Abuela Lorena now she was kind of pushed to do it, no? In that way, it's like she didn't. Some people can ask, like, oh, maybe I have these 9 years of doing the moon dance. May I start a circle? And you ask for the blessings. But in our case with Abuela Lorena,
She didn't ask.
she didn't ask, but she said, okay, yes.
Mm,
Abuela Malinali saw her. And so it's kind of
yes.
our elder that we are
Yes.
starting to work with, learning
Yes.
with, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
And yeah, it was beautiful because you were, I guess, invited to join this moon dance. And I guess a big part of the moon dance is like there's different roles that you can occupy within this ceremony. There's, the singers, the dancers. There are the ones that work with the smoke, and so you were one of the singers and the drummers for this dance, and you will be for the next four dances. So I guess that's another thing about this ceremony is once you start, once
responsibility.
you have, yes, you have some responsibility. And just so we can also, I don't think we mentioned this kind of properly, but so we met here in Germany, and during the pandemic, you went back to Mexico, but last year you invited myself and two other friends to join you on the moon dance, which was a real honor to be invited into understanding this tradition. And we really had no idea what we were getting ourselves into, but we felt the call as you spoke about the call. Like it is very much a calling, and you feel pulled to do this. And sometimes spirit will call you to do things that you have no idea, where you have no idea what you're getting yourself into. And I had so much fear joining this moon dance, but I trusted you, of course. And whew, what a life-changing time it was, really. Quite an intense 4 days, but yeah, I guess there's a few different elements that we could talk about. There's the temazcal, there's the dancing, there is the singing and the chanting. You've kind of briefly mentioned that the songs from Abuela Lorena and from the lineage of Abuela Malinali.
Malinali.
So these songs are sort of passed down through the lineage, and these are the songs and I guess the prayers that we
Yes.
sing. But the whole, I guess, purpose of the moon dance, you can correct me here, but from my understanding, is to unite women from all over to come together to dance for 4 nights under the full moon, and to essentially heal together, to feel together, to bring awareness, to connect to one another, to connect with the ancestors, to connect with nature. And we do all of this through the dancing, through the fasting, through the singing and the drumming, and of course through the temescal, which is a really big part of this as well.
While we are dancing, we are praying with our songs, and all our beautiful songs about, yes, like history of the ancestors, how we are healing, how we are like battling ourselves, like how I love these songs I was singing yesterday, like myself, I'm my worst enemy, so I need to defeat me. And this is a beautiful song where we are like going through the journey, where sometimes it's really hard to remember after 3 days dancing, and the 4 days when we are just full of energy in some way, but we are for sure like fighting our minds, or fighting
Yes.
some things we need to fight, but we are like healing ourselves. We are healing our ancestry, our
Yeah.
grandmothers, because when we heal ourselves, we are healing like several generations behind us, and the generations coming, right? Because we are carrying all the pain and all the wounds from our ancestors too. We are doing this not easy work
Very not
the
easy work.
way we decide to do. And is
Yeah.
when it start to have some sense when we are there, and after months, like we were saying before, how something changed, maybe more connection to our soul in the way that
Mm-hmm.
we are maybe focusing ourselves more in what we really want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And also about I was mentioning about my period, my menstrual period. I call it my moon, my red moon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
For years I have a like last like 7 days or 8 days,
Mm-hmm.
like my menstruation was exhausted. And since after the monsoons the last summer, something changed, and it's when I found this is really like the magic happening going on, and that now is 3 days. Like since the moon
Yeah.
dance, my menstrual period changed to from 7 to 3 days,
Mm-hmm.
and feels healthier, is less pain. And I
Mm.
listen that something that like that happened when we do moon dance, and then
That the pain lessens.
start to change a little bit again. But then you do a moon dance again, and it's kind of you get charged with the power,
Yes.
because we are getting the
Yeah.
power with our sisters, feeling holding for each other, feeling part of this web of sisterhood. and
Yeah.
and it's empowering. It's just
Yes. Yes. Totally. It,
it's beautiful.
it's interesting when you kind of mention like the dancing and how like in so many parts of this ceremony you're battling yourself, and that really, I think that really what it is, that's really what it is. And I think when I went into it, I was bringing so much fear, so much anxiety that I've been carrying. And when I was there, I have to say that, like, because this is such a new thing for me, I know very, very little about this. And I'm very lucky that to have had you guide me through this and, you know, invite me into this tradition. But I noticed for sure that like the part, and I think this will change because this is only the first dance I've done now, and I understand that my relationship with this ceremony is going to evolve as I keep doing it. And it was interesting because with the dancing part of the ceremony, I didn't have as strongly, I guess it didn't impact, well, I didn't consciously impact me as much as the temescal did. Like I really found that with dancing, I was able to really commit to the dancing. I had the energy and I had the stamina, but my cognitive mind was very much like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? It makes no sense. Like I got all of the logical mind was, I was battling against that. And I really struggled with that. So I'm interested to see how that evolves. But I found that with the temazcals, like this is where I got so much of the healing that I really needed. And I remember one of the things that the Abuela always told us during the ceremonies and during the temazcal is when we're here, we're receiving medicine. And this medicine is for us to take back home with us.
We use in the temazcal, we use the fire. This the representation of the great spirit, and the water like mother of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we are using these elements, and we are like healing. So it's a can be a very strong experience at the Temazcal, but afterwards always you feel like reborn. You leave
Yes.
something behind there, and you are
Mm.
starting over.
Yeah, it's funny. I think I was the most scared of joining the Temescals because it is such an otherworldly experience. And I didn't really know anything about it until you had mentioned it, until you'd invited me to the moon dance. It was really not in my awareness at all. And I was terrified to be, because essentially you all of the women in the ceremony enter the temazcal, and it is completely dark. In It's a small space, kind of like a chamber. As you said, it is the representation of the womb. And you go in there, there's no light, it's completely covered in darkness, and you're in there and you sit on the ground side by side with the other women from the within the ceremony. And then of course water is poured onto these hot volcanic rocks, and then you have the steam, you know. So there's as you said, it's a very powerful ceremony because you're working in darkness, you're in a small space with all of these women, then you have the heat, the fire, the steam, your sweat, and all of the emotions underneath the surface start erupting from inside of you. And I was very confronted by this space because I for sure have trust issues with people, and so this was very scary for me to trust enough to allow myself to go into this space and be part of it and experience it. And as you said, when it was done, it really does feel like you're being reborn. And the thing that I felt on the very first temazcal I entered on the first night was probably the most powerful for me because I just started crying immediately. And I just felt all of the, like, it's hard to explain, but all of my feminine pain exposed itself in that moment. My inner child came out, my sisters came out, like all of the pain that I kind of carry came out. And what was beautiful is I felt so carried and so held by all of the women in that space with me. It was like it's the most intimate space you can be in with other women, where you're all there together, healing together, feeling your wounds together. And you really feel like you are in the womb of the earth with your sisters, and you can get through anything. They're carrying you. And I think this experience of being connected to other women in this way was really shifted something huge inside of me, really, really huge. It really helped me to kind of trust myself and to trust other women. And what happens in the temazcal is so sacred, it's hard to put into words. There's like the singing, the chanting, the crying, the emotions, the intensity of the elements. And when you come out after like having shed a layer of yourself. And it was beautiful because there are also men, of course, that are sort of taking care of the women during the ceremony, which is also a really beautiful part of this, like the role of the masculine in the ceremony. But I remember one of the temazcals we came out of, I was, you're kind of crawling out of the entrance and the men support you in getting up. And I remember once one of the brothers said, welcome to the world, newborn. And it was so powerful to hear that. Like, it was just, it blew my mind to hear him say that. Like, I couldn't believe it. Yeah, it's a super powerful experience.
And we were supported really for beautiful men there,
They were
right?
beautiful men.
Very gentle, very,
Yes.
they, mostly all of them, they had been for a while also like learning and
Mm-hmm.
preparing and
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
mascales, vision quest, and some dancers.
Yes.
So they are, in the way that we are healing our femininity, we are also healing the relation with the masculine. They are also healing the relationship with their masculinity, but also they are healing the relation with the femininity that live with
Mm-hmm.
them and outside, inside. So one of the
Yes.
men told me also before go there, he was having a struggle with the partner or ex-partner, but he have such an awakening there that he felt
Wow.
just full of love and wanting to reconcile himself also with his duality, the partner, right? So was healing in both sides, both directions, and I think it's really nice to have this like this open heart man there working with
Yeah.
us, and became also very honest and beautiful friendships in that way because we are going through all this healing together. This
Mm-hmm.
kind of in the most vulnerable part of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
That is
Mm-hmm.
when you are finding not your sisterhood, if not brotherhood.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
I'm keep like doing, like sometimes I do fire ceremonies. Like we had one in Germany. Like one of the I became good friend with a guy from the keepers, hombres de fuego,
Mm,
men of fire, we say.
nice.
And he had been like helping me with some fires already. Um, and I think it's just beautiful, no? How we are like supporting each
Mm,
other. I will
yeah.
love to get back to Germany one day and make another fire ceremony because Tanya, everything starts there when we have this ceremony in the forest.
Totally.
With
Totally.
I was talking about the fire, trying to explain a little bit about this cosmovision And I
Yeah.
remember in our intentions, I was like really like praying for we keep doing this, and was next solstice when we
You're
are
right.
doing
Yeah.
and having
There's
the moon dance, right?
You had the fire ceremony on the summer solstice the year before the moon dance, and oof, we moved a lot in that fire ceremony. Like I think after that fire ceremony in the woods in Germany, my whole life changed, and the intention I set that day really crystallized into my reality. And ever since then, I think ever since that ritual, and then we said that we would keep doing this, that we would, it was sort of in that fire ceremony that we'd set the intention that we were going to come to Mexico one day. We didn't know it was going to be for the moon dance, but we said we were going to come to Mexico. And then we committed to that. And, for the whole year, I was like, it's not going to happen. Like, it was the middle of a pandemic. It was really the sort of the first few months of this pandemic. And like, here we are leaving
With
Germany.
traveling with pandemic, yeah.
Yeah. And we made it happen, and we got there, and it was beautiful. Um, and I know, like, that we're gonna keep doing this, because once that calling is there, once the intention is set, the universe just opens all of these doors for you to be there. But to go back to the men really quickly, like, this was really the first time that I had also observed men in this way. And I think for all of the women that were present, a really big part of our gratitude was actually for the men that were taking care of us throughout the whole ceremony. They were so compassionate, so loving, so masculine, and such protectors. And I think it gave us like all hope and faith. And I think it was this beautiful union of the masculine and the feminine during this ceremony. And it was also beautiful to participate in the temazcal with the men. This didn't happen every day, but there were a few, because of course the men also had the opportunity to, after the women were finished with the temazcal. And I should explain as well that with the ceremony, we would start dancing. So before we started dancing every single night, we opened it with a temazcal. And once we finished dancing at dawn. We would then end with another temazcal. So you go temazcal, dance all night, and then you finish in the morning with another temazcal. And so you imagine you do this every single day for 4 days. It's a lot. You shed a lot. It's powerful.
Yeah. It's like in another level, no? We are like
Another
really
level.
sharing ourselves in a
Oh yeah.
subtle way, but it's a powerful way.
Did also want to kind of talk about some of the experiences inside the temescal. One that I thought was really interesting actually is, and it kind of goes hand in hand with like kind of battling yourself during the ceremony. But there are so many instances during the ceremony that you're faced with the elements and you're faced with nature. And I thought one that was really interesting that came up in our moon dance was the fire ants. And the location that we were at had the land was full of fire ants. And there was one night that we were dancing that I was bitten by, I think, 2 fire ants. And if you've ever been bitten by a fire ant, you'll know it's an insanely painful experience where the pain of this fire ant's bite shoots up through your body and lasts something like 4 hours. And it was so interesting because during the dance, like it was I was dancing barefoot. It was the one night I'm like, I'm going to dance barefoot tonight. I'm going to be like really connected with nature. Like, I think it was maybe the 3rd night for me that I decided to go barefoot. And that was the night I got bitten by the fire ants. And I had such an extreme level of pain. And I was so confronted by this pain. And my logical mind was just like, you're out here in the middle of Mexico, dancing under the moon, no shoes. You've been bitten by these fire ants. Like, you could die. Like, all of these extreme thoughts, like battling my ego mind and like being faced by the circumstances, being faced by the elements.
The rush, the poison going through your body.
Yeah. And then like having to choose, like, I'm going to keep doing this despite what has occurred. And I made it, of course, and it was fine. But then I remember when we were in the Temezcal, this was also maybe the same night. I didn't know this, but you got bitten by 2 or 3 fire ants sitting inside the Temezcal. And just to sort of preface this, like when you're in the Temezcal, you can't really leave the Temescal. Like it's sort of everyone has to leave because the way that you kind of come in, the way you enter the space is such that if you want to leave, everyone has to leave because you come in a particular motion and
because we
you
were
move.
a lot. We are
Yeah.
like full,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
part of like we are in the prey, right? In the
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, was I think was the third night.
Because the third
Well, I
night.
was super happy. We were like almost this is our last night, yeah. And I feel that, and I feel like celebrating, and I'm like joking with my other friend Melissa about like the drumming, and that I feel the fire on me, and I'm dancing there like just jumping in the earth, in the soil before going inside, and then I realize just coming inside that in middle of each foot was beaten.
Mm.
Um,
Both feet were bitten.
or stink. I don't know what is the correct one, but I start to feel the fire coming from my legs, going like from my knee to my hip, like my legs. And then I just feel like like I'm feeling I cannot be holding myself. I'm just moving because I got like anxiety, and I'm
Mm.
breathing, but it's just super strong. It's super strong, and there I'm like, whew, I remember being like a
Yes.
suffering and way intense, but in some way I think we got the medicine of the ant.
We did get the ant medicine.
It
And
was
I also remember seeing you not knowing that you had been bitten, but I could see that you were in so much. I don't know. It almost looked like spirit was moving through you. It looked like the fire was moving through you and it looked so uncomfortable. And I think a lot of us were aware that you were in this intense experience where you were struggling.
we just feeling each other,
We
right?
were feeling each other. And I thought it was so beautiful because in that moment, I really was energetically like sending my intention to hold that space for you and to like, hold you. And I think all of the women around you were physically holding you and energetically holding you. And it blew me away because I think this is when I realized how strong you are. Like I could see how much pain you were in and you were moving so much through your system, but you stayed there. And I guess, I mean, now I'm thinking of myself sticking through the dancing despite like dancing, using my legs to dance despite being in so much pain. It's amazing, like what our bodies are capable of and what our bodies can carry us through. And when we really tune in with spirit and allow what is happening to just happen, it's sort of,
Well, I'm just a reflection of you because you dance
yeah,
also the whole night.
of
Even
course.
you had also the fire in your legs. So I
Mm-hmm,
think it's
mm-hmm.
just also because we are being supported for all the women in the
We
way
are
you
being
was
supported.
sending me this support is when I knew also you told me about that you was struggling with the like fire ant bite is when I also was trying to get some medicines or something for
Mm-hmm.
you, but like we did it. We just went
We
through the
did it.
whole
We
thing,
did it.
and I think
Yes.
the support of all the sisters
Yes.
and all the elements and everything. And then in the morning, I remember the abuela just came to me when we are finishing the dance the last day, and I'm exhausted. I think it was the last day, and it's
Mm.
telling me, "Oh, you're gonna run this temazcal."
Yes.
I mean, what? It was already like a very intense night, and like,
It was the last day. Your voice was
yeah.
gone. You probably only slept like 4 hours the whole ceremony. Like we were all wondering how you were still standing by the last day.
And the abuela is like, come, and he's like, look at me. You are gonna run this, and my abuela. But you're gonna be there with me, right? You're gonna help me. Yeah, for sure. Go change your clothes. And I think it's using this moment when we experience this exhaustion I was talking about that with a friend. When we are in this exhaustion point, that we went through so much, the dancing, the fasting, the singing, the the biting of
Yeah.
the little friends. And then it's when maybe use the mind is kind of gone. The mind is exhausted
Mm.
also.
The
No use
ego is
the body.
exhausted.
The ego is exhausted. So I don't remember everything that I say in that moment. I remember a little bit, but then it's like, what I'm gonna say?
Mm.
Okay, don't think about it. Use like, okay, great spirit. Divine mother, divine father, guide me, because like I don't know, like, and then it's I'm there, and suddenly just start to come, you know. It's when I'm
Mm.
thinking I'm sorry, just channel you,
You were for
because
sure channeling.
this is coming like love and the idea about connecting with the power of our womb. I remember this came very strong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I feel I was like translate. I was lost
Yep.
on time. I think it was like kind of very long temazcal also.
It was. It was probably the most intense temazcal for me, the whole ceremony, that last one with you, because you kept us in there for, it must have been an hour, maybe longer. And you kept feeding the rocks, you kept feeding the flame. And so the steam was very intense in there. And I think from my experience of receiving it, I saw you in a completely different, you stopped being Mars in that moment and you transformed into an abuela for me. Like I could, the way I was seeing you, perceiving you, you looked like an old woman. You were not yourself anymore. And you were for sure like trans channeling, like the what was coming out was so profound. And you also brought in the spirits, you brought in the ancestors in that temescal. And I remember you asked us all to connect with our grandmothers, and they were in there with us. Like they were so in there with us. I could see them, I could feel them, and everything you were, I don't know, it changed my perception of you, that temescal. Like I really saw you, like I really saw you for who you really are. And I think that's the beauty of ceremonies and rituals, is that you look beyond the facade of everybody, you look beyond the ego, and you can really see people. And as you said, like reflections of each other. And when the ceremony ended and we were saying goodbye to everyone, everyone was just saying, you are my mirror, you are my mirror, you are my mirror. And you realize, like, yeah, we are all just mirrors. And I took that away with me, and it hasn't left me. And yeah, powerful, powerful ceremony.
Thank Thanks. I thank you with my heart. Like I don't know so much what to say about it. Like because I feel for sure it's a hard work we are doing with.
Mm,
And how we start in the beginning of the talk, well, all this industry of the spirituality is very
mhm.
dangerous sometimes, that we are like people like to be some people like to adorate, and some people like to be adorated,
Adored.
adore, right? Some people like,
Adoration. Yeah.
so, and some people like to be there receiving, some people like to give. So it's very delicate line.
Mhm.
And for this reason, always I'm returning myself and working, returning myself to the ground. And because our ego love also to hear that, you know, like kind of
Yes.
that you can like to be fit in that
Mm,
way. And I think it's the strong fight of the spiritual warrior, that
it
we are
is.
trying to return ourselves to the ground and don't lose the head. And I thank you so much for me also was like a big lesson that night, that morning, because was not expecting to be put in there by Abuela Chantico, Abuela Lorena. But I just did it, I received it, and I just opened myself for that, for yes, the grandmothers be there, like talking through me, to us, singing through us. And it's something really beautiful about the Temezcal when we are there. It's not just us, it's all
No.
our ancestry with us. All the spirits are there. And when we say ajo or we say ometeotl, when we are like celebrating,
Oh,
it's like the
Mateo.
ometeotl is the mean, ome means two. Teotl is like divine.
Like the
So it's
duality.
the duality, you know, the feminine, the masculine. We are always celebrating the divine duality. It's in you and me also. Like we see to the eyes, no? Sometimes between some light coming between the eyes is like two pupils, sorry. Um, so I feel in that way, feel very humble that I want to keep it like that. I'm still learning and I want to keep just learning because I don't know nothing. And this, I'm trying to open my heart and I'm just like also wishing and putting my intention for a spirit talk to me and talk to you and talk to us, you know, like through us.
Yes.
And yeah,
Yeah.
is that, no? Like just trying to remain connected because the mind is very tricker, like a trickster,
Clever.
right?
It's very
It's
clever.
clever and
Yeah.
a trickster also. Sometimes it's when we need to get just down to the intelligence of the heart and the gut, right? The intelligence of our gut. Sometimes it's more wise that our mind, that sometimes is more, can be more chaotic, the monkey mind, right? So for this reason we start at Temazcal and we say, for me and all my relationships, right? On when we open also conversation is in with the permission of your faces and your hearts. And yeah, I think is that Camino Rojo give us a lot of love and wisdom and power and
Yes.
celebration for life
Totally.
also.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful to be part of this, and I'm very grateful that you came to Mexico, that you crossed the ocean during a pandemic. And I was very surprised to have you here, you and our friends.
Yeah.
I just feel it's kind of still the beginning
It's the
of
beginning for
things
sure.
coming.
It's the beginning for sure. And I think I'm really lucky to have experienced it because I think doing this kind of a ceremony is extremely humbling. And it really does separate you from your ego and you really look at yourself in the mirror. And it's, I think, the hardest thing to do for humans is to look in the mirror and to be confronted by what you see. And I think that's why this is such hard work, but it's so worthwhile. And I feel way more in connection with myself. And it's the beginning. It's really like a big beginning process. It's like the gateway opening for your healing and for your evolution and development. And it's been a really, big part of my journey. And thank you for your trust and for inviting me and for guiding me and being here side by side with me. And I know our relationship evolves so much through all of this.
Tezcatlipoca is the name of the essence. It's not God, no? It's an essence. The smoky mirror. The smoky mirror. So it's kind of, we are all mirrors, and
We're all
sometimes it's
mirrors.
this smoke between us that don't allow us to see clearly that we are just reflections of each other, you know. Is a spirit having the experience of being a human through your body and through my body. So it's
Yes.
kind of, we are just experiencing life, but we are all
Yeah.
spirit, part of
Yeah.
the great spirit. And
Yes.
I'm so thankful with you also. I know we have a strong connection since maybe before our minds know it, and but our hearts knowing. Yeah, thank you for being my life too. And I'm learning so much from you. And
Mhm.
thanks for open this, like you
Of
are
course.
reaching, making the people maybe get to know more about this type of spirituality. And I think you are here to bring message, right? So
I
I'm
think
so
we're
thankful
ready.
with you, sister.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I think we're ready for it now. And yeah, let's see. I know this is only the beginning. So thank you for
Aho.
joining. Oh.